to check out the T6 Series tractor from New Holland.
The opinions expressed during this show do not represent those of this station. If you've missed any of this show, you can follow the podcast at energeticcity.ca. Now, an in-depth look at the news and information shaping our community. This is Moose Talks with your host, Doug Craig, on Moose FM.
Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Moose Talks. A little later on, we're going to be talking to Christine Clark, the Executive Director of Community Bridge. We'll be talking about Coldest Night of the Year, which was last weekend, and I participated in. I think my legs are still sore. It says a lot about me. Anyway, and we'll talk a bit about what Community Bridge does in the community. To start, though, we've got our MP for Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies. It's his third appearance, Bob Zimmer. How's it going today, Bob?
Good to be here.
That's good. Why don't you lean into that?
A little bit further. Yeah, it's good to be here.
So, Bob, a lot happening right now. It's been kind of busy since kind of Parliament resumed in January. Why don't we start with this? The federal, provincial, and Wet'suwet'en reached an agreement on Sunday to move forward in ending the land dispute over the Coastal Gas Link pipeline, but they haven't agreed yet on what to do kind of on the pipeline itself. This has been ongoing for quite some time. I mean, how are you feeling about this? I mean, there's sort of something in place, but it's not enough of something, it seems, right?
Yeah, I think I just had a meeting last night with some of the elected chiefs and met with some of the hereditary chiefs earlier this week. I think just to get an understanding what the governance looks like and some of those struggles that are there, it really is. It's different than just the Coastal Gas Link issue. I think what was troubling was when the Minister Bennett and Minister Fraser came out to talk only with the select few hereditary chiefs. The Indian Act actually recognizes elected chiefs and council, and to completely ignore that group that even is the established governance that the government's even had established, if not have all of them in the room at the same time, is troubling. So that's a bit of where my involvement comes. I just want to help out where I can, and again, meeting some of these Teresa Tate Days, the hereditary chief that I've had a lot of talks with and conversations, and just really, I mean, the bottom line comes down to they want what's best for their community. The majority of Wet'suwet'en people themselves support the project. They don't want poverty for their people anymore. They want to have a prosperous community just like we do. And I'd like to see and help them get there.
Yeah. And as part of that, and a big part of the news cycle has been about the blockades. The one obviously in, kind of in the area of the Coastal Gas Link, south of Smithers or what have you, but also across the country. There was one kind of between Toronto and Montreal. There's been one in Edmonton. Yeah. They're coming down and whatnot, but it's been... no matter what side of it you're on, it's been a mess because it's been causing upheaval, rail traffic, that sort of thing. I mean, you guys have been hammering the Liberals on this to do something about it, and it seems like they've been kind of caught in inaction. What do you think of that? What do you think they could have done better in this regard?
I think they should have acted a lot sooner, earlier on, and had some, there's one thing within the Wet'suwet'en community, I definitely understand the sensitivities of any action in that community, especially. But when you see other communities around the country claiming to be in support of the Wet'suwet'en people and setting up blockades, to me, that just doesn't cut it. I just talked to a farmer last night at the hockey game with his son, and he said to me that there was a backlog of 10,000 grain cars.
Wow.
And there's demurrage charges, so ships are literally waiting for grain, and the payments that come from that. Our farmers, already had a really rough season last year. And so this kind of thing really puts everybody in a predicament of really being hit financially. So I think they should have reacted, again, outside the Wet'suwet'en community, acted a lot quicker. But within the Wet'suwet'en, had those conversations, bring everybody to the table and have a really great conversation, just like we all would appreciate.
Yeah, so kind of a two-pronged approach.
Absolutely.
Like they should have acted quicker in talking and getting everybody to the table, but
to take 3 weeks for the minister to come out there and have a conversation with not the whole community, to me, is lacks leadership and the understanding of the severity of how the issue was going to grow. Had they dealt with it a lot sooner, I think this probably could have been behind us, and solutions could have been found a long time ago.
Okay. Now, you touched on this already. You were speaking to a farmer. Have you been talking to people about how this is affecting the piece specifically in terms of even agriculture or, again, kind of the LNG industry? Because, of course, this pipeline that they're fighting over is hopefully going to bring a boon of economic recovery to this region, right?
Yeah, I think the concern for a lot of us is just more uncertainty, and I think the NGOs, the ones that don't want to see any pipeline go anytime, anyhow, whatever, they're winning. So once that stall happens, they're victorious. Like I was saying last night to this farmer, I said it's awfully easy to stand in front of a train or in front of something, but it's a whole different thing to get something moving as a project or an initiative. But again, it's awfully easy just to stand in the way. So I think that's where we are feeling the hit the most, is that lack of confidence we see with Warren Buffett pulling out his investment in the Quebec gas project that would have been great for Quebecers and for Canada too. So, it's one thing I heard Morneau on the radio 2 days ago talking about how great things were in the country, and just absolutely tone deaf to what's going on in the ground in Western Canada and resource development.
This is federal finance minister Bill Morneau, yeah.
So, lack of leadership, hugely, and my wish, honestly, regardless of whatever government's in place, show leadership on this stuff and come out and make some decisions and understand what's really how Western Canada is being hit. And everybody knows about the transfer payments that go from Western Canada to provinces that have not provinces. That bottom line is going to be affected by the downturn in resource development projects. So anyway, bottom line is we need more confidence coming back into our resource sector. Internationally, they're eating our lunch right now because of that lack of confidence, and we need it back.
As we go forward now, you've kind of touched on this as well. What do you think needs to happen to kind of get things moving fast? Like, should it be moving faster? Or are we kind of getting there now? What do you see still that needs to be done to kind of get it happening?
Yeah, well, I think it's been clear that the Coastal Gas Link project, even want to talk broadly about consultation. They've done that. Even the wet sweat and people have said, look, they came and talked to us. They've done survey after survey. I quoted it in the House last week. 80% of one house supported the project in a survey in the community. 85% of another house. It's broadly supported. Now it's just time to get going. The pipe, I see it going down the highway. I've seen the pipe yards all across the province. It needs to get going. There needs to be no more delay. Project needs to proceed, and we need to get to work again to retain what confidence is left in the industry, but also to get the project to finish so we can actually produce gas in our region and sell it to Asia, who's asking for it desperately.
Okay. All right, we're going to have to switch gears now. The Saulteaux and Moberly First Nations and the federal and provincial governments have signed the Southern Mountain Caribou Partnership Agreement, but since then they've also added amendments that seem to make it possible to allow them to ask for input from local governments, something that wasn't there before. And obviously, we've talked about this extensively at energeticcity.ca and whatnot. Consultation wasn't a part of it before.
No.
How do you feel about this, that they've kind of made this tiny sort of almost a olive branch out, and even the PRD has responded and said, well, thank you for this, finally, for making some sort of kind of reach out to us.
To me, it's absolutely meaningless, because the whole process, we started off back a year ago, and I see my old Facebook posts of us having Caribou meetings. It was because of a discussion that wasn't occurring. We saw the bureaucracy of Canada, bureaucracy of BC, and the two First Nations only being able to have a conversation and change any letter in this agreement. We tried, and the government's so-called came out and listened to what we had to say. Nothing really changed in that agreement, and that's why Blair Lekstrom pulled out and said it was a sham. So to insert a few words and to say something, meanwhile, all throughout the process, they did none of it and gave the impression they were, and even had a liaison officer to even talk to us and bridge that gap, supposedly. It was all a ruse. And good for the First Nations that were involved in the conversation, but there's many First Nations in our community that wasn't part of that conversation. And to me, it sets the stage for future, this is the way, here, you like the document, here it is. You don't have any opportunity to change any of it. So I think it's a real bad precedent, and we're going to be fighting this. We still are. I don't think it's something that we should just accept that this is the way it's going to be. What we have to do is pull up, again, a 30,000 foot level. And what I've seen federally is this group wants to, and the number that's been quoted is 30% closures, 30% protected lands by 2030. We're at around 12% now. So even in the debates, we talked about real caribou effectiveness is getting rid of wolves that are causing those herds to be depleted. But they'd say, well, that, bottom line is we need to get to this certain percentage of protected lands. So we're only 12% now, and they're going to double that, more than double that in the next 10 years. Where do you think all that land's going to come from? They use excuse after excuse. Next time it's going to be a moose closure, and next time it's going to be a you name it closure. It's all to get to this protected area, and we're asking protected from what? Some of these areas industry has been developed, and populations are still fine. We've seen areas where the caribou are absolutely obliterated and no industry's even there. Tweedsmuir Park's a great example for that in Jasper. No caribou, no industrial development either. So where did the caribou, did industry cause that depletion? Obviously not. There's other factors. And I will say it's positive. The province has been doing some work on the wolf population, and it's actually been effective. And now we hear, and I have a column coming out even speaking to, there's a group protesting that action that doesn't want to see any wolf population diminished. Well, that's what works. Unfortunately, we see the wolf populations growing, and they like to eat, and they like to eat caribou. And so we need to help out with that balance where we can. So anyway, I'm not too confident the way the agreement was formulated and essentially rammed down our throats. And I think all of BC should be wary of any future agreement.
Okay. Going forward, you sort of mentioned this already as well, fighting it. What do you do then when you're not in the agreement kind of formally in the way that we've kind of discussed?
The best way we can fight anything like this is just create public pressure. So I go to Ottawa and I critique the minister and write letters to the ministers provincially. And really, we just need to get the public awareness up. And, before we were talking about this caribou, not many had heard about it. They were kind of concerned with what was going on. And they said, and the bureaucracy said, well, you know what, don't worry about it. No mills are going to close. Nothing's going to happen. No, you're still going to be able to snowmobile in the backcountry. Well, guess what? Now here we are on the other side of the agreement, and guess what's going to be affected? ATVs in the backcountry, snowmobiles possibly, future development too. So it's all in the crosshairs now, and that's what I'm concerned about. Potential loss of another mill coming up because of this. So I'm very concerned about what this sets the stage for our resource sector that all of us appreciate in this community. And again, we're already struggling, as we talked about earlier in the show, with the lack of confidence. And this is just another blanket of non-confidence in our resource sector again. And I have work to do in Ottawa just to deal with outside influences and well-funded NGOs that want to come in and are doing a very good job about making our resources a bad thing. And I still have to keep up that fight, and we have some other ideas, but we just have to keep doing it. We have to keep pressuring the federal and provincial ministers to stand down on this stuff. And again, the fight's never over. I think we just have to keep going.
Now, speaking of that, because these two things have sort of dominated the headlines, certainly since Parliament resumed in January, what else are you working on? What else are you hoping to work on maybe as we move forward in this session?
Yeah, I think there's other stuff. I have another role that I'm the firearms guy in Ottawa, and the Parliamentary Outdoor Caucus. So things like, hunting and fishing and areas like that. I am the Northern Affairs Shadow Minister too. So one other issue we're looking at is the closure up in the north. There's a moratorium that's been placed in the Arctic. It's expiring on 2021. And so going around and just asking, and a lot of the premiers weren't too happy about those closures when they were implemented by this government, because a lot of prosperity, again, was planned, and that was just taken off the table with that closure. So working
sorry, Bob, this is a moratorium on development in
the Arctic, so offshore. So anyway, so I've been doing a tour. So I was in Yukon last month. I'll be in Northwest Territories, I believe, this month, next month in Nunavut. working on that side of things. And then there's always local issues. And one big one locally is just we've been really trying to pressure hydro and Site C. We're seeing a lot of our local contractors not getting paid. It's taken 150 days and longer to get paid.
Wow.
Which is causing them to pull back and then other contractors to be hired in their place. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. And we know the contractor isn't, it's not a hydro direct issue, but the contractor that's been there, the Spanish company that's there, it's been making it very difficult for local contractors to pay their bills, especially at a time the resource sector's struggling. So that's another thing that we've been working on, and just had a meeting about it yesterday. So
I see. Wow, busy
lots
time
going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll say.
And I will say, there's people like Bobby Party who made a quilt and raised $11,500 for Adura for a young girl that's fighting cancer and fighting a spinal issue. So there's a lot of good things going on too, but
It's not all dour like our
exactly,
conversation has been
yes.
so far.
There's still reason to be alive in the north. It's still beautiful up here. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Bob. Well, we're going to have to leave it there for now, but thanks so much for making time, taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us today.
Thanks for the opportunity.
You're very welcome. All right, we'll be right back after this with, Christine Clark, the Executive Director of Community Bridge, right after this.
Good deeds don't go unnoticed, at least not in Fort St. John. If you know an individual or group who have done amazing things for this community, the Fort St. John Community Awards Gala is coming up, and nominations are now being accepted. There are 7 award categories, including Recreation, Literacy, Cultural Youth, and new this year, a Business Award. Nominations close March 9th. For more information or to nominate a deserving member of our community, visit fortstjohn.ca.
Do you spend hours managing the complicated aspects of booking crew accommodations? Are you a road warrior driving to your work site and need a place to stay nearby? Visit LodgeLink.com and let LodgeLink transform your workforce travel management experience. With LodgeLink, we take the hassle out of finding, booking, and managing your crew accommodations. Built around the specific need of crew travel, LodgeLink provides convenient online access to hundreds of properties from any device and saves you time and money. We provide our customers a better and more personalized booking and crew management experience. Visit LodgeLink.com to get where you need to be.
Right now at Tim Hortons, you can get 2 delicious breakfast sandwiches for just $5. That's a win. Kinda like when your neighbor is shoveling his sidewalk and decides to shovel yours too. Enjoy a win at Tim Hortons today and get any 2 freshly prepared breakfast sandwiches made with 100% Canadian eggs for just $5. It's always great value at Tim Hortons. Plus applicable taxes, conditions apply. Cannot be combined with other offers at participating restaurants for a limited time.
Grand Prairie. It's the place to be this weekend.
Explore the outdoors. Saturday is Wapiti Nordic Ski Club's 42nd annual Loppet. 9:30 till 12:30. Socialize, ski, snowshoe, and celebrate winter. Also Saturday, learn about the pyramids of ancient Egypt. A presentation hosted by the GP Museum. 2 till 3 at Muskosipi Park. Sunday is the Downhill Derby at Nighthawk Adventure Park. Prizes and guaranteed fun for all riders.
Upgrade your adventure with a stay at one of Grand Prairie's premier hotels, like the Sandman Hotel in the heart of Grand Prairie City Center, across the street from Revolution Place and a short walk to Muskosipi Park. Enjoy all amenities, including their fitness center and impressive dining options like Denny's and Bar One on site. Call it a night and wind down in your newly renovated room. Comfort and convenience. Find more at sandmanhotels.com.
This message is brought to you by the Grand Prairie Region Destination Marketing Fund, a proud partner of Grand Prairie Regional Tourism. Visit gptourism.ca for more information.
You're working full-time, raising a family, and trying to find time to cook healthy, balanced meals. Sound familiar? Plenty of other families right here in Fort St. John struggle with the same crazy, fast-paced life. And that's exactly why Michelle and the girls at Done Like Dinner pride themselves in serving you the best freezer meals in town. Stop in to Done Like Dinner today and check out their wide selection of freezer meals. These meals are perfect for busy families just like yours. To learn more, find them on Facebook or visit donelikedinner.net.
Watch this show live on Facebook or download the podcast at energeticcity.ca.
We're back on Moose Talks. Now we're joined by Christine Clark, the Executive Director for Community Bridge. We're going to talk a bit about Coldest Night of the Year and, of course, what Community Bridge does in the community. Thanks so much for coming on today, Christine. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you very much for having me to come on and talk about Community Bridge and Coldest Night of the Year.
Yeah.
We appreciate it too.
No, I'm very glad you made the time. So why don't we start with Coldest Night of the Year? It was just this past Saturday. I took part in it for the first time. It was a lot of fun. I'm still sore. I probably should walk more, apparently, but
Right.
obviously it was about raising the money and the awareness and all that. How did it go in terms of the
Oh,
fundraising?
it went very well. We made around $12,000 to $13,000. The final tallies aren't in yet. They're still adding up the money that's coming in, and people can still go and donate online as well. And so we use that money to help other people that are homeless or hungry or hurting in the community of Fort St. John. So what that means is if they're struggling to pay rent or struggling with utility bills, they don't have money for food or household items for their children, then we can help them out with that. And we also help women in the transition house that we also have funding for to get reestablished in new homes as well when they're ready to move out of Mayope.
I see. Okay, well, you've touched on it already. I mean, this is one facet of Community Bridge, maybe a major one, but you also do other things in the community, right? That like, I think I read help people get jobs. You do like the Daddy and Me program, which I've attended a few of those as well.
Nice, great.
You seem to have a broad sort of idea of what Community Bridge does in the community. What else do you do?
Well, we have 20 programs at Community Bridge, and most of them are funded through different ministries. And then we do fundraising for some of the programs, like Mother Goose and Daddy and Me. So a lot of our programs offer counseling to individuals or families or group counseling. And for people that are just struggling with different issues in their life or have specifically experienced sexual abuse or domestic violence. And then some of our programs provide outreach services to help them find homes, to help them get to the different services if they've experienced some type of abuse, and also to help them find jobs or learn how to write resumes and what kinds of positions they might be interested in applying for and what's available out there for positions. And they help them learn how to regulate their emotions, how to get along better with people, and how to manage some conflicts in their life. And so it is a broad variety that we do offer. And then we do also provide services in Dawson Creek as well. We have 7 programs there of similar services that are provided in Fort St. John. And then some of the programs also travel out to Fort Nelson, Tumbler Ridge, and Chetwynd and Hudson Hope to provide services there as well.
Wow, so you guys essentially, your reach is basically the entire northeast, kind of half the province here.
Yes,
Wow.
it is, the
No kidding.
northeast.
Wow, that's wonderful. I want to touch on the homelessness again for a minute, because Coldest Night of the Year, as I understand it anyway, is about homelessness awareness of people experiencing homelessness, and kind of in other communities, sometimes they have charities that are just dedicated to homelessness, right? But we've had homelessness count people on here before, and we've talked a bit about what homelessness is in Fort St. John. It's not what you might see in the media a lot. It's not necessarily people camped out or living on the streets, but it is people who are couch surfing or kind of in that transition where they literally don't own a home. I mean, how do people access your service? How do you find these people in Fort St. John? Because they're not necessarily clearly living out in the open in the way that maybe they might in Vancouver or in Edmonton, for example.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these people come into our local office on 101st, and lots of times there's different outreach programs through Northern Health Authority or Ministry for Children and Families that people have learned about our homeless program through these other programs, and then they will come in and find out about our services, and at reception they'll learn who they should meet with at Community Bridge, and then they get connected and get the services that they need. And if they are looking for somewhere to live, then they will get some help with that.
Wow. I mean, it sounds essentially like you can help a person who's experienced homelessness kind of make it all the way back to, as you said, you'll help people with resume writing, finding a job, that sort of thing. So you can help them through the whole process of kind of getting back on their feet.
And we also help them learn about how to maintain that home that they have. So if they're renting somewhere, sometimes people need to learn skills about what being a good renter is, so that you don't taint your reputation for renting and then not be able to rent anywhere. So it's a lot of good skills to learn just on how to be a good renter that a lot of people just don't learn throughout their life to that point.
Yeah, well, if we want more information about this, or maybe we know someone who's experiencing homelessness, how can they get a hold of you and kind of get in contact to maybe start the process or find out more information?
So they can just call Community Bridge at 250-785-6021, and their first contact will be the receptionist, and then she will put them in touch with, say, Vlad, he's in the Homeless Prevention Program, or Stephanie, who's in the Women's Outreach Program. So those are two good connections for getting help with getting a place to live and getting your homeless situation sorted out.
Okay. And for all your other great programs, which we kind of only had time to touch on, more information, what's your website address for that?
So that is at www.communitybridge.ca.
Yeah, and you see them all the time. Daddy and Me, you said, Mother Goose on the Loose.
Yes.
Well, wonderful programs, and I'm so grateful that you guys provide them for the community.
Thank you. And we really appreciate all of the community support to be able to provide these programs as well.
Excellent. Well, we'll have to leave it there, Christine, but thank you so much for making time to talk to us today.
All right, thanks.
All right, we'll be right back to wrap things up here on Moose Talks.
Okay, Kara, what has 4 wheels and flies, huh?
Dad.
A garbage truck. Okay, one more. Why did the cop pull over the moving van?
Dad, stop.
To bust a move? Huh?
Make dad jokes, but don't drive a dad van.
That's a good one.
Get the new 2020 Ford Explorer with standard Ford Copilot 360 and style to spare. Right now, you can get 0% purchase financing on all 2020 Explorer models. And that's no joke. Visit your local Ford store or Ford.ca.
Getting your nursing degree just became more accessible. For the first time, UNBC's Northern Baccalaureate Nursing Program is being offered in Fort St. John. Individuals with at least 60 credits of university-level post-secondary education are encouraged to apply. The NBNP degree is completed over 20 months full-time. Opportunities for nurses in Northeast BC are expected to trend upwards for the next decade. The deadline to apply for the September 2020 semester is March 30th. Visit unbc.ca/nursing for detailed admission requirements.
If you're looking for hassle-free internet services, call the Peace Region Internet Society today. With coverage throughout most of the Peace, PRIS can get you connected quickly without the hassle of contracts or bundles. Visit PRIS.ca or call 1-800-768-3311 for more information.
Looking for more power out of your pedal? Here at SS Automotive, we have a large inventory of diesel enhancement products, including throttle sensitivity, boosters, tuners, custom program, and even major components like engines and transmission. We have everything your diesel might need. Call SS Automotive today.
Now, a Sports Boosters update.
To celebrate winter sports in the spirit of the BC Winter Games, the Fort St. John North Peace has assembled a special exhibit looking at the history of winter sports in the North Peace. From curling to speed skating with unique sports like dog sled racing thrown in, this exhibit looks at our rich sporting history through photographs, artifacts, and stories. Did you know that Fort St. John's outdoor speed skating oval was once lit in the light of parked cars so a competition could finish in the dark? Skate, skis, and skips. Winter sports in the North Peace exhibit at the Fort St. John North Peace Museum from now until March 31st.
Send us your sports info, sports@moosefm.ca, or by fax, 263-9749. Sports Boosters on Moose FM.
Hi, this is Ted with PIMS Production Equipment. Talk to us at PIMS for electrical work, air compressors, pumps, valves, relief valves, office phones, and computer networks. Experience the best in service. Check us out at PIMS.ca or call PIMS at 250-787-0808.
Our your community first. This is Moose Talks with Dub Craig on Moose FM.
Our thanks again to Bob Zimmer, the MP for Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies, for stopping by to chat with us, and for Christine Clark, the Executive Director of Community Bridge. We talked a bit about Coldest Night of the Year. If you want more info about what they do and things that you can do with your family and kids, brought to you by Community Bridge, check out communitybridge.ca. I also want to quickly mention that you should make sure you check out the Community One Stop tomorrow at the Totem Mall from 10 till 2. You can learn about and sign up for a lot of great things happening around the community, including sports, music, arts, and hobby clubs offered by the city and local groups. You can also just walk around, talk to people. It's a good time. That's, again, happening tomorrow from 10 till 2 at the Totem Mall. That does it for another episode of Moose Talks. Studio production today was brought to you by Adam Rayburn, so thanks to him for that. I'm Dub Craig. Keep being awesome.
Join us next Friday at 10 a.m. for another episode of Moose Talks, a weekly talk show about Fort St. John and the North Peace.
This is Moose Country.